Hello, retro fans. It's Christmas time, and as you may have recognized, I have kind of a new passion for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and this is quite a little story, but that's perhaps something I just talk about while getting to the stuff I want to present today. And basically, this is kind of linked to the stuff I have received today as well. And therefore, I think let's jump into the topic right now. And here we are. And the thing I was going to talk about is basically what's on my desk already. And as you can see, this kind of stresses my workspace a little bit because I have received so much stuff now within the last days that it is almost impossible to put this on my desk. But let's go through this step by step. And the very first thing is what I have mentioned at the very beginning, the reason for this NES passion. And basically, the thing is that NES was famous in a time where I had absolutely no access to game consoles. So I was born in the east part of Germany, the former GDR, and we had this so-called Polyplay, which was kind of a Pong-like home console. But this was by far not comparable to the thing we talk about here right now. But fortunately, I had very early access to home computer systems as well as the early PC era, and therefore, I was kind of happy to get my hands on computer stuff very early. So compared to my age, it was 85, 86 around like this, and I was in this fifth or sixth class at school, and therefore it was really quite early. But as I said, we had no consoles at all, and there was absolutely no chance to get your hands on your on a console, and therefore the whole concept of having a game console dedicated for gaming was a bit strange to me because I was kind of oriented to work with computers to do, let's say, more or less useful things, even if we consider programming games is kind of useful. Well, anyway, and as we may know, in 1989, the wall broke down, and in order of this event, the two German countries got reunited, and then we stepped into this 90s start of bigger consoles, and but even at this time, it wasn't really interesting to me. So I got an C128, I got a PC, friends of mine got Amigas and all that stuff, and so we went kind of this computer path, and just with the first Xbox I had my very first contact with a game console, and then later on we got a Wii, the Nintendo Wii, but even if you spend a considerable amount of time with those consoles, it's still not my main passion. But some months ago, I have received an NES, and this was kind of a favor in preparation of an RGB mod. I was desoldering the main ICs, and then I was supposed to send this back. But if you may have seen my NES broken leg repair video, something went wrong in this process. And due to this, I had to find a replacement for the PPU, just to learn that getting a single PPU is much harder than just ordering second-hand NES on eBay. So I got this NES, and I thought, well, okay, now you learn that you can screw up things, and if you do this for others, then you may have to test this. So I got 2 or 3 games, and was just well, kind of keen to see how this whole NES thingy looks like and feels like. And so I got this favor job solved, shipped the NES, and got my NES left with this broken leg IC, which fortunately I was able to repair. And then I got kind of addicted to this NES thingy. And I thought, well, it's an 8-bit console, and there are some famous games on it. And let's see what's going to be interesting to me in terms of games. I know I'm not an RPG fan, and I know I'm not really into this kind of fighting games and all that stuff, but there are plenty of NES games, and I thought, well, you may have to have a look what has been famous in the era, what's famous right now still, and see what's going to be interesting for me. But as you may know, I'm not really somebody who just puts something on its desk and then use it as it is. So I got an idea. Well, I started to put IC sockets on my NES, and I'm not very happy with the picture quality of the NES. It's well, kind of horrible, so to say. And I thought, well, there must be a chance to get a better picture. And as mentioned already, the preparation of the first NES was for an RGB mod, or component mod to be precise. And I thought, well, that's something I have to try for myself as well. And this is basically the first thing we can see here on my stack or my pile of things. And this is the component mod, and comes with a couple of extra parts, because we have to put a socket onto the NES, and then we have to solder a couple of things, and we have the chance to even get the S video, the YC video output out of this thing. And well, basically this is on my list of things to do, on my agenda for probably the next, well, let's say weeks. Everything takes longer than I planned usually. So this is basically one of my projects I'm looking forward to. And then, as I have mentioned, I'm still in search of games I might play a little bit longer than just 10 minutes or so. And I have already tested Super Mario, and it's a cool game, it's an interesting game, but I'm probably not born for this type of game, so it's nice to have. And I spent a couple of well, minutes, maybe an hour or something like this, playing it, and it's fun, but I'm looking for something that's more action related, and I learned that Gradius is going to be one of the preferred shooter on the NES, so we will have a look at this. And since there are a lot of homebrew stuff available for the NES as well, like demos from the demo scene, and some games that haven't been published officially or something like this, and perhaps a couple of games I'd like to test without buying the cartridges, because some of the games are already pretty expensive. I thought, well, the best thing is to go for this so-called Everdrive N8, and this is basically a cartridge where we can put stuff on a compact no, on an SD card, and then we can run this stuff on the NES. And I'm really looking forward to test this one. I think this is going to make life much easier, and as you can see, this is almost new. If it even, perhaps it is new at all, I have no idea, but it looks very unused, and I'm really happy that I got this for a very reasonable price at eBay. So let's put this aside. want to close again. So, and the next thing, and that's basically kind of a classic, it's this triple game cartridge, Super Mario Bros, Tetris and Nintendo World Cup. As I have mentioned, I have played Super Mario Bros already in version 2 and 3, and I think version 1 is a must-have, especially as it is ported to the C64. I have shown this in one of my videos as well, and I simply just want to compare the two versions against each other to see how close the C64 version is to the original version. So that's something I'm looking forward to as well. And I want to play Tetris as the, well, probably famous Nintendo games at all. And there is one of my all-time favorites. This is probably one of the first games I ever played on a non-GDR computer system. And the hard thing is that my friend who has owned this computer system has kind of, lost it, or gave it away or something like this. And the tricky thing is we can't remember what kind of system it was. It was not the C64, that's for sure. For a long time I was thinking, or I was, I lost my words. For a long time I thought it was an Archon Electron, but I've learned that this game is not available for the system, and the system is probably not capable of running a game like this with the graphics I have in mind, but it's a dangerous thing as well. But anyway, I got this game for the Game Boy as well, for the Game Boy Color, and I played this a lot on the C64, and then it was quite logical to get this for the NES. And as I said, this is one of the games that is already pretty expensive, so it took me a couple of attempts to get this for a, well, acceptable price, so to say. Really looking forward to this one. And then you may know that I'm into racing games, and Red Racer is probably one of the famous racing games on the NES, beside perhaps a Ferrari Challenge, which I like a lot as well. And the interesting thing here is that this is the version which is still complete, so it's not just a cartridge, because Red Racer supports a 3D mode, and for this we need some 3D glasses. Oh, they are a little bit beaten up, but well, hopefully they're going to do the trick for at least testing some labs of it. And I'm really looking forward how 3D gaming looks on the NES. So it's quite nice to have this as an original, including packing. As you can see, Drop Zone is even missing the sleeve, so I really have to get some sleeves. And then digging deeper, maybe we just continue on this side, so this relates to this one. Playing arcade games or shooter games or racing games with a gamepad is not very comfortable, so I thought I really have to get my hands on this NES Advantage, whatever we want to call this, arcade stick. And as you may see, the cable has been tied up with some adhesive tape, but isn't looking very nice, so I have to kind of refurbish this a little bit. I have to clean this a little bit, but it feels very solid, feels very robust. The stick has quite a good resistance, and well, I'm looking forward to see how all those functions are working on this one, and whether this plays much better than the gamepad, so to say. So just to have some space on my desk, put this aside. And then we come to this still packed box. And as you may see, it comes with a different cable. And that's a very interesting thing, because the seller claims that this is a very rare factory modded NES. And it is supposed to have this component mod, or how many people refer to it, the RGB mod already. And as you can see, it has a different connector on the back, and I'm really looking forward how it looks inside, and whether this is really working and providing a better picture than the standard composite output of the NES. So a lot of things, and I think let's make some space, trying to get all those stuff together. It's always a little bit tricky to find those tiny parts later on. They got lost somewhere in my shelf, but for now put this aside, and let's kind of install this NES system. I really hope it is going to work. Out of the box, looks like it's missing some feet. Yep, so I have to get, I think I have this somewhere in my box. And we have to connect this to my OSSC, and that's a very good point of testing the OSSC with this new video, well, method. No, it's not a method, video output. Let's put it this way. So we need at least some centimeters of cable, but since it is very long, I'd like to keep this together. Really something you can put in your shelf and attach this to your TV. And let's see if this is the real deal. So push this a little bit into the back, and then we can, as always with SCART, it's always the other way around as you need this. And it still won't fit because it has some bended legs, so we may have to fix this first. Looks like someone has kind of insert this more or less forcefully into a connector, but perhaps SCART is probably one of the worst connectors ever. Anyway, this should do the trick right now. So let's see whether it fits better now. And here we go. So I have to do some fine tuning on the cable, and we need some power. And I thought there was some power here already. And let's walk through this from the top to the bottom. And let's start with, going to need the plizer anymore, with drop zone. So it's very likely that we get some contact problems with the cartridge inside, and we may have to switch to a different video input on OSSC. And let's see whether we can see something. There's no power right now. LED is not lighting up. So we may check the original power supply. Perhaps it is a bit different. Oh, much better. So we got a different connector. That's interesting. But it is not reading the cartridge. as I have kind of expected. So, well, let's test the cartridge where I know that it is working. Get this out of the system. We have to do something with this one. It appears to me that it has some power supply issues. So, it's pretty tight. Let's check different cartridge. Once more. Now the LED just flashes very shortly and then it goes off. So I think there is some kind of power supply issue. And we may have a look inside. But I highly doubt that we are able to see something right out of the box. I did some Googling, as we say today, about this so-called factory modified NES, and I wasn't able to find any information about it. So, but it's really interesting that it has a different case and a different connector. So I hope I have understood all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One is missing. Okay, it got some rust inside. So it has seen some better times, I think. So maybe something inside this PCU's a bit broken. So I think for today's purpose I'm just going to have a look inside, and then we may switch to the other NES just to have a look at the games. Just have to remember that those longer screws are for this part. So design-wise, this is really built to last. As you can see, the case is much bigger than required, so they should have created even a smaller version of it. And all those metal shields are just for conformity and not really doing something with the system at all. And this odd-shaped PCU on the corner of this could have been improved as well. So I think if I haven't missed one here, just another one. So now we got all those screws. As you can see, there are many, and now it's a little bit tricky to disconnect the connectors here because this original metal shield is kind of blocking access to it. So here we go. Put this aside and let's get rid of this metal thing here. And let's have a look. So the PCB itself looks quite okay to me. There are no blown up capacitors or something like this. So let's have a look inside of this box. Whether we can see something inside that may looks alarming. Oh yeah, a lot of things, indeed. So the tricky thing is that this is a combination of power supply or power converter and the video converter. But as we can clearly see, it is really built as it has been planned and has never been a different version at all. So this is really interesting. I have expected to see something that's more kind of a modular system or something like this, but well, this looks quite as it was intended to be like this. But unfortunately it isn't working. So one thing we can try is to desolder this IC and perform the so-called cartridge detection mod in order to see whether this is just preventing the system from starting up. But there's indeed a lot of dust, a lot of dirt inside this whole thing. So I may desolder this whole power supply here in the corner in order to have access to the inside and check whether everything looks fine so far. I mean, the main capacitor looks okayish, but perhaps there are other capacitors inside, and this is probably going to take a little bit longer than planned for this episode. So I think let's put this aside and get to my first NES. To the FrameMeister, remove the audio from here and use this audio. And then we have to set the FrameMeister to video mode and controller. LEDs on, and we have to go to this and we get Super Mario Bros. 2. And we have some audio as well. Everything looks fine so far. Let me just check this. Okay, so. And we were going to test the games I have received. Small changes, but we were able to figure this out. Let's start with the first one. Going to be Super Mario, Tetris and Nintendo World Cup. Fingers crossed it's going to start. And we're going to see a picture. Yeah! Very nice. So. So I was expecting that we can perform some so maybe the controller isn't... okay, it's a contact issue as well, so it looks like everything is rotten a little bit, but finally let's go for probably the most embarrassing thing I can offer today. I think this controller has really some issues. Then let's go for another one. Here we go. So, and as you can see, the picture quality is not very nice, but anyway, it's going to work for now. And then one of the major things I really have to work on is the component mod of this NES. I really have to say that for all the consoles I have tested, for all this arcade stuff, the NES looks the worst. It's really amazing how they could come up with something like this. But basically on a real CRT perhaps it looks a little bit different, but yeah. So yeah, basically this plays a lot like the original version, like the C64 version, and I'm as bad as it as on the C64 as well, but at least it is working. And oops, what I was going to test anyway was Tetris. So let's perform a reset after I have reached the end of the level, and then we will see. Got to the top of the flag. Probably the first time ever. Okay, reset and go for Tetris. So this is probably one of the main issues of the FrameMeister. It takes so long to sync to the signal, and oh, interesting. There's no chance to go back anymore. Looks like we have to power cycle the console to play another game. I was expecting that reset is doing the trick. Nope. So let's switch it off, switch it on again. Tetris, start. So Tetris was one of the reasons to buy myself a Game Boy back in the days when it was kind of famous. And I started with the Game Boy Pocket because the original Game Boy was too chunky for me. It was too much of a device to carry with me, but the Pocket was an incredible, cool Game Boy. And later I switched to the Game Boy Color, and I really have to dig this out of my boxes and have to bring it back to life. I really enjoyed playing Game Boy Color. Especially the display was much better than on the Pocket, and I played a lot of old, let's say, black and white games on the Color just because they looked much better, and I'm really looking forward to get my hands on it and play Game Boy again. So Tetris, so this looks more like from the arcade. It's not the version we know from the Game Boy. But basically it is well, Tetris. So I'm not expecting so many surprises. I have seen there's a Tetris 2 as well for the NES. So that's something I really have to check. And to see whether this is making a big difference. And well, that's probably one of the games I'm going to play the most, since this is something I'm able to handle. It's not as complex as RPGs, and not as fast and reaction driven like those platform games like Mario or something like this. But well, I'm not going to bore you to death with my Tetris game. let's have a look at the other games. Or we may, let's check Nintendo World Cup as well, just to be fair. Yeah, and the sync time is one of the reasons why I really want to get this retrotting OSSC combo working, but I have to come up with a cable to transfer the sound from the retrotting to the OSSC or from the NES to the OSSC directly. Basically, it shouldn't get out of sync since none of the devices is adding some lag, but that's something I do not have out of the box since the NES outputs mono signal and those two devices are expecting a stereo signal. The OSSC is capable of adjusting, I think, a mono signal, one channel signal to a, well, two channel signal, but I haven't tested this yet, so that's probably something we have. West Germany, that's cool. Let's go for West Germany. I have no idea. Yeah, I think it's very fine. I have absolutely no idea about football, but there are a couple of questions, and I think let's just start with it. Oh. I was expecting like something like Microprose Soccer on the C64, but this is, well, a bit ugly, I would say. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is probably not going to be my favorite games. And I'm not even sure whether I'm playing or if this... yeah, I have some control over it. Well, but no, I prefer Microprose Soccer on the C64. It looks much better than this, but anyway, I'm not a football fan. So, then let's move on to the next one. Let's hope that drop zone is working. And in order to do so, I will switch to this arcade stick. Fingers crossed, we will going to see much more. Yes, drop zone, as we know it from the C64, and I think it is. Is it an arcade conversion? I'm not really sure. I just know that this game is better known as Defender, and Defender is coming from the arcade, but I'm not sure whether Drop Zone found some or has some, well, kind of parents, something like this system it came from. But it looks really a lot like on the C64. So let's see whether we can play it. So maybe I have the connectors mixed up. Next attempt. No, it's not doing anything at all. Now we got a nice intro, but no reaction from the controller itself. So it could be a contact issue, so that we really have some dirty contacts inside. But I'm really surprised that it is not working at all. something happened. So we now just have to find... interesting. So I can control my astronaut, but I cannot shoot. Oh, this was the bomb. Ah, okay. Now we're making progress. It is really just a bit dirty and rotten. So, oh, this is hard to control. Oh, oh, boom. So it really needs some cleaning. So let's see whether we can rescue some of those guys here before they all go to die. Oh, not the most efficient way to use the bombs, but I'm still in the progress of getting used to it. So, I'm really happy that this is working, and it really looks like on the C64, and it's really something I was looking for, and the arcade stick is doing just fine for this. I think it needs some fine-tuning, some cleaning, and then it will be almost perfect. Tech wave 1 completed, very nice. Looks like it's missing some feet as well. Yeah, indeed. So it's a common theme for this session. And oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't my intention. So on the system we don't know anymore. We played this with 2 players basically. One was controlling the joystick, and one was just paying attention to the radar system and was controlling the smart bombs, because we had to initiate the bombs by pressing the space bar, and that's probably one of the hints that it was maybe a C64, but I thought we had a different system at this time. But anyway, so we got rescued all of those guys. Then let's move on to the next one and play some racing games. Or let's move on to Gradius. I have no idea what's going to be on the stack. And we died. So, Red Racer's on the stack. Then let's see how Red Racer is going to be played. So, I think we start with the standard 2D mode and then we move on to the 3D mode. And we may have to refer to the manual, because I think we had to press a button in the middle of the game. Bildfolge. Oh, it's German. Interesting. Okay, cool. So, select during the game. With this button, you change the picture mode. In standard mode, the pictures in standard game mode. But if we're going to use this red-blue goggle, then we press select, then it should switch to this red-blue mode. So, has some interesting cutouts. No idea what's the reason for this. Anyway, course, sunset, coastline. Pause. Okay, that's going to be the 3D mode. And now we just have to find how we can drive this car. How do we get out of pause mode? Here we go. Well, it's not exactly outrun, but looks fine, okay, so far. Not sure whether we have to change gears or... No, probably not. Looks pretty fast so far. And, well... Oh, we may have to brake a little bit. So at the first glance it looks like a funny racer. And well, that was basically my expectation. But we run out of time. Okay, we had some issues at the beginning, just to be fair. Then let's test this with 3D glasses. Oh, I really have to clean them and perhaps have to get some better ones. At least I'm looking cool, I think. Very cyber, so. Now I just have to find the right buttons. And well, it is actually not very 3D. It is more or less some flickering experience. So perhaps I have to fine-tune some of the settings. It looks like that maybe the FrameMeister is trying to convert this interlace format into a progressive format, and this is probably not working with this 3D system here. So I can tell you that my experience is basically very similar to yours. Except for the fact that everything looks a bit weird. So that's probably not really what we are looking for. So let's jump back, and then I just need some spare hand to take those glasses off. It was worth a try. Let's see, perhaps this is going to work with the OSSC a little bit better. But I think the first thing I really have to improve is to get to the next checkpoint. Anyway, this looks cool. So that's really something I was looking forward to. So let's assume that this is not something that's going to make problems. Maybe we have to have a look inside. But for this I really have to find the bits. Not sure where I've placed them. Nope, it's not going to work. This is pity. I was really looking forward to this one. So it looks like I have to spend some time with this game to bring it back to life. And then let's have a look at this Everdrive N8. May have to copy a few things onto the SD card in order to get this to work. Just curious to see how it's going to start. It's grayish. Okay, That's quite similar to the one we have tested right now. So we may have to copy something to the SD card. That's something we can do quite quickly. So, N8 ROMs. Now there are plenty of ROMs already on this, so it should work. Okay, then let's test this again. Let's see if it is doing anything at all, or if we have broken the NES. Yeah, that's basically a contact issue. Okay, the NES is still working, but labeling. Okay, here we go. So, ROMs. Options, cheats, device info, meta info, options. Not so many options. Loading. Bubble, okay. I'm not aware that I have selected it, but well, at least it starts. On player start. Oh. Cool. So I run my first game from this Everdrive, and the next thing I'm going to do is to add some homebrew stuff, some demos and all that things. I'm really looking forward to it. And then perhaps I'm going to check some games I haven't bought yet, just to see if this is something I'm interested in. And I think especially for those older systems, oh, it's going to be a bit angry right now. It is probably the way to go. I mean, we have seen SD to IC devices for the C64, and we have seen USB drives on the Ultimate 64 and on the C64 Mini, and on this I was going to need this real C64 thingy, and therefore I think it is just logical to have this on the NES as well, because a lot of games aren't available anymore, and then it's really good to have a chance to play them. So basically, except for Gradius, which wasn't working, that's something I really have to fix, and the component modded NES, everything was working quite out of the box. I'm really happy, and that's really cool so far. I have some work ahead, so I really have to get the other NES to work again. I have to fix this arcade stick, which definitely has some contact issues, and perhaps I'm going to fix the other controller as well. And then, well, I have a look at the Gradius cartridge, what's going to be the issue, why this isn't working. Perhaps it's just a contact problem, but there's some rattling noise inside. It's probably not a good sign. And well, yeah, if you have any ideas, suggestions, whatever, feel free to use the comment section. I'm looking forward to it. And if you're interested in to see more NES stuff in the future, feel free to express yourself. Basically, this channel will be mainly focused on the C64, as it is named already. But there will be some NES stuff every now and then. And basically, I'm working hard on getting this FrameMeister versus RetroTing versus OSSC video ready. I started to record the first content for it, and I found myself kind of overwhelmed by, well, the options I have for this video. I'm trying to get as compact as possible, but it's probably going to be a longer video because there are many possibilities or many combinations of stuff we can cover with those 3 devices, and I really want to provide a good, let's say, picture comparison of those 3 devices. As you have seen, it is not as easy as it appears at the very beginning to get this stuff set up, but basically that's something I'm going to work on to explain this as best as possible, and that you will get an impression what's going to be the best option for yourself. Anyway, as usual, thank you very much for watching, and if you not have done so yet, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and I would highly appreciate if you consider supporting me on Patreon or by joining the channel membership here on YouTube, or simply go and buy me a coffee on Ko-Fi, whatever feels comfortable for you. And as usual, see you for the next episode. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.